Hi friends. Over the last few days, we've been thinking about finding God in worship, which is primarily an emotional experience, and finding God in service, which is very hands-on. In worship, we hear God's promises to us and we make promises to God, and in service, we put those promises into action. Today we're going to profile people who experience God in intellect and in relationships. So let's start with the intellectual pursuit of God. People who experience God most strongly in intellect draw close to God when they learn more about God. They love to study scripture and theology. No one likes going to bookstores with them because it takes them so long. If intellect is the primary pathway by which you experience God, then most likely the road to your heart runs through your head. You need to continually immerse yourself in great books and deep thoughts and sound teaching. When your mind is growing, you feel fully alive. Your favorite part of worship is the scripture and the sermon. When you are faced with a crisis or a spiritual challenge, you go into an analytic, problem-solving mode. Your most significant moments of closeness with God come when you are engaged in new and challenging and deep thinking. The danger of experiencing God primarily through intellect is becoming all head and no heart. One man observed, "It is extremely difficult to be right and not to hurt anybody with it." Very few people enjoy sitting next to the kid in class who's right all the time and knows it and doesn't let anybody forget it. So if intellect is your primary pathway to experiencing God, then you'll want to be sure not to neglect growth in worship and in relationships. Finding God in relationships is the second practice that we'll cover today. People who experience God through relationships have a deep sense of God's presence when they're involved in significant interaction with other people. If you are a relational type, you rarely meet a stranger. When telemarketers call to invite you to extend your auto warranty, you say, "How are you, really?" Being alone drives you crazy, and you sometimes feel guilty when you hear other people talk about long periods of solitude with God. Solitude wouldn't be so bad, you think, if I could bring a bunch of other people along with me. Key moments of your spiritual life most often occur when God speaks to you in the context of community. People who experience God primarily through relationships need to be a part of friendships and small groups that continue to grow in closeness and in depth. These people are more likely to practice prayer and service when they can do so with others. They're more likely to hear God speak to them in a conversation with a friend than in reading a book. One of the dangers of the relational pathway is that we might have the tendency to be superficial. So it's possible to be in a lot of relationships and yet still not really know anyone well. The key is to move beneath the surface, beyond the external, and to get to know others and to let them get to know you in deep and meaningful, vulnerable ways. The other danger of experiencing God primarily through relationships is becoming dependent on others and on their experiences, and never really establishing your own faith or recognizing your own unique experiences of God. Silence and solitude will be a stretch for the relational type, but some quiet time alone with God will help to free you from constant concern about what other people think. Although the pathways of intellect and relationships are different, they're not mutually exclusive. And in fact, they work quite nicely together. We'll think more about that on Monday. Until then, have a great weekend. I'll see you soon.